Let's start with something you just can't ignore once summer hits. And most people moving here just aren't ready for it. Wages are lower than national averages, especially in service jobs. Let's be real. Southern Utah isn't just about sunshine, red rocks, and low taxes. If you don't know what's actually waiting below the surface, the dream can start to feel pretty stressful.
We're Nick and Michon, and after helping dozens of retirees and remote working families relocate here, we've seen what really catches people off guard.
In this video, we're breaking down the truths about moving to St. George, Utah. From soaring home prices to limited job opportunities to the summer heat and the tight-knit culture, and all the things that nobody mentions in the brochures.
If you're serious about making a smart move here, you're going to want to hear this. Let's get into it.
Reason number one, the heat. Let's start with something you just can't ignore once summer hits. And most people moving here just aren't ready for it.
Summer temperatures can often reach 105 to 112 degrees with little to no relief, even at night.
It's a dry heat, but it still limits outdoor activities during the day.
Heat contributes to poor air quality, including wildfire smoke and ozone spikes.
People with dogs have to consider that from the middle of May until the end of September, most dog walks and dog park visits have to happen before the sun is up. Otherwise, it just gets too hot and can be very dangerous for the dogs, especially bull breeds and other short snout breeds, as they simply cannot cool down efficiently enough, especially when temperatures get over 70 degrees, which typically happens by 5:30 a.m. This may be a big deal for someone who is not an early riser, but has dogs that need stimulation and exercise.
Extreme heat can take toll on HVAC systems and result in higher average utility bills during the peak summer months, June, July, and August. Having your AC system inspected regularly is a good call. Making sure that you use a fresh return filter is a must. There's nothing worse than a frozen AC coil outside in the middle of triple-digit heat day, all because of a clogged air filter. We always caution our buyers to perform a separate HVAC system inspection by a licensed HVAC technician when purchasing a resale home. Dated HVAC systems are sometimes no longer approved by the EPA and supported by the manufacturer. So in the event of a system failure, it can mean $10,000 to $15,000 repair bill per system or a full system swap. Keep in mind that if your AC fails in the middle of summer, you're typically not alone, and getting an HVAC technician to respond to a service call can take 24 to 48 hours, and that is a long time without AC in the middle of August in St. George, Utah. People in St. George often joke that the drivers here simply do not know how to drive in the snow because it hardly ever snows here and hardly even rains. It is not uncommon to find classic cars from the 1950s here. They're not rusty or corroded like they would be anywhere else in the country. With that being said, the summertime heat can be absolutely brutal on your daily drivers, and you can count on your AC working on maximum setting 3 to 5 months out of the year. And if you happen to park outside, you can count on piping hot seats every time you get into your car and faded paint after a fairly short time. Hot weather can be just as brutal on every major system of your vehicle, so plan on more frequent service intervals to keep everything running smoothly. Consider that moving here can come with an additional cost of $300 to $500 per vehicle if your windows aren't already tinted. Driving a car without tinted windows here will literally make you feel like sitting in a fishbowl under a magnifying glass. So getting your windows nice and dark is essential to surviving summertime heat in St. George.
Here are a few things to consider if you plan on making St. George your home. Visit in July or August to experience the real summer climate before committing. Schedule outdoor time early in the morning or after sunset. Use smart landscaping and proper home design for heat mitigation. Schedule regular AC tune-up sessions and avoid buying an older home with an older HVAC system, as it could mean more costly repairs. And consider planning your vacations here in St. George around the high summer hot months, just like we do. We usually will take off for a few days at a time during the hottest time of the year here, and we'll go like an hour north, 30 minutes north. It's double the elevation just going 30 minutes north. So it's the perfect time to get away in the hot heat.
Reason number two is the cost of living in St. George isn't what it used to be. Now, if you thought you were coming here for affordability, you're not alone. But what most people don't expect is how quickly that's changing. Housing prices in southern Utah have surged since 2020. There's limited rental availability, and therefore the rents are expensive, HOA fees are not uncommon in new developments, so you have to factor that into your budget. Now, the property taxes in southern Utah are still relatively low, but the raising property values are starting to impact that as well. And don't get me wrong, people that are moving here from expensive cities still feel like St. George, Utah is a deal, but the locals are certainly starting to feel the squeeze. We always encourage our clients to consider the actual costs versus just thinking that it's cheap and allowing yourself to potentially make a mistake. Factor in real mortgage quotes, real HOA statements, real copies of utility bills that could be provided to you by the sellers. You should always work with an experienced agent that knows the real value of the properties versus just inflated hype. And if that is pushing you outside of your comfort zone, you should consider nearby towns. Often you could get a lot more home for the buck if you consider towns like Hurricane, Laverton, Ivan, Santa Clara, and even further outside areas, because your dollar could stretch further out in those areas. Another thing you should factor in, especially if this is a part of your retirement plan, you should factor in conservative property appreciation, because things have been rallying here for over the last decade and nothing could go up infinitely. Hello friends, I hope that you're enjoying this video as much as we enjoyed making it. There's truly only one thing that we enjoy more than making these videos, and that's hearing from you. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking that St. George might be a great place for you, or maybe you're thinking about relocating somewhere else in southern Utah, or the entire state of Utah for that matter, please reach out to us. We would absolutely love to be of service to you. Our contact information is in the description below this video, as well as a link to reserve a time in our calendar for an obligation-free meeting so we can chat and see if we could be a good fit for each other and if southern Utah is right for you. Without further ado, let's get back to this video.
Reason number 3, limited job opportunities and economic fit. Another thing people don't always think through is what day-to-day life looks like if you're not retired or working remotely. The local job market is small and heavily reliant on healthcare, education, tourism, and construction. Wages are lower than national averages, especially in service jobs. Many professional or specialized roles just simply don't exist here. But small businesses actually do really well here in southern Utah. So if you're thinking about opening a small business, that's definitely something to consider. Newcomers often assume that they'll just figure it out, but options can be very limited. If you didn't find these challenges completely discouraging, here are a few tips. If you're relocating for work, make sure your position is already secured. Prior to committing to a particular subdivision, consider your different internet providers. And if you are just the type of person that cannot work from home, consider the commute to local office spaces. If you're entrepreneurial, consider local demand and competition first. Speaking from experience, the real estate industry here is incredibly saturated, and so is pest control and all entrepreneurial companies that you can think of. But if you're persistent and you stick with it, you will succeed. Don't expect to rely on tourism and service jobs unless you're okay with seasonal fluctuations and lower wages.
Reason number 4 is it can be tough to integrate socially here in St. George. Now, before we begin to discuss this topic, I think it's important that we make our position on this matter clear. We don't typically involve politics in our business or on this YouTube channel. We don't care what part of the political spectrum you fall on. Although with that being said, we do feel that the extremes, either extreme left or extreme right in the political spectrum, can get a little bit naughty. With all of that being said, there are a few things that you should know, because that can affect how much you enjoy living in St. George. St. George is a tight-knit, mostly conservative community. Over the last 5 years, as the remote employment migration began, we find that a lot of our clients are moving here from large progressive cities that actually value conservative values. People that prioritize righteous living, family values, and their spiritual beliefs first. Newcomers from larger, more progressive cities may feel out of place culturally or politically here. Fortunately, the last few years really divided people by their political identity, and in some circles, it can still create some tension. St. George and southern Utah is growing, so there are all sorts of people here from all walks of life, different religious and political affiliations, different frames of mind. So no matter where you're from, there is a good chance that you will find somebody that is like-minded to you, regardless of what like-minded means to you. Some people report feeling isolated or disconnected, especially if they move here without family or friends. If none of these things discourage you, or maybe you find yourself to be one of the lucky ones that makes friends easy, here are a few pointers that might make integration into St. George community easy for you. If you're trying to make friends in St. George, Utah, be proactive. Join hiking groups, interest groups, and there's literally a million different Facebook groups, regardless of whatever it is your interest, regardless of whatever your interest may be, whether it's a car community, bike community, any kind of fitness community. There's a number of groups that I could personally think of off the top of my head that is full of other people just like yourself that moved here maybe 6 months ago or maybe 16 years ago. You never know. You're likely to find somebody that shares the same interest. Engaging into your HOA or a local neighborhood event could be a great way to meeting your friends. And just in general, stretching your comfort zone and stepping out a little bit outside of that might open up some new opportunities to meeting new people in a new town. We find that most people here are just tired of the next big thing that the media wants them to be divided about. We find that regardless of where you're at in the country, people find things in common. They share similar passions and interests. And right here in St. George, you will often find that your next door neighbor might not identify with the same political or religious beliefs, but it doesn't make them a bad neighbor. Most people put their political and religious differences aside and just try to be the best neighbor they can be. Lean into what makes St. George special. Family values, slower pace of life, outdoor living, and sooner or later, you will find your people.
The truth is, one wrong move in St. George can set you back financially and emotionally for years. That's why we don't just sell homes. We walk families and retirees through all the real questions that most agents skip. If you're thinking about moving to Southern Utah and you want honest guidance, please contact us at the number below. We would absolutely love to be of service to you. And if you would like to learn what living in Southern Utah is really like, check out our next video.